In a thrilling Afghanistan versus Australia match at Wankhede, Glenn Maxwell's remarkable courage shown as he's played an unbeaten innings of 201 despite injury, cramps. I think that was an out-of-the-world kind of a batting that a batter could wish for. Well, two visits to his physio, his 202-run partnership for the 8th wicket led Australia to a victory, turning around a precarious situation where they had lost 7 wickets for 91 runs. This feat marked Australia's biggest World Cup run chase ever and the first double century in a run chase in the World Cup history. On the flip side, Afghanistan had earlier posted 291 for 5 with Ibrahim Zadran scoring an unbeaten 129 runs. Australia's men secured their place in the semi-final while Afghanistan's chances dwindled. In the points table, Australia is third with 12 points from 6 wins and 8 matches, while Afghanistan remains sixth with 8 points from 4 wins in the matches. The race for the number 4 spot is now contested between New Zealand, Pakistan and Netherlands. Yes, Netherlands is the dark horse alongside Afghanistan. Not sure how it happens, but yeah. Well, we have guests who are joined by Zoom. Paul Dennett, the beaming Paul Dennett, who's a cricket journalist from Australia, podcaster, eminent watcher of the game, great student, and gives an absolute incisive insights. David Brooks, former cricket director, Channel 4 UK, but more importantly, we have Roland Butcher, the former English cricket test player and the current selector of West Indies, who joins us for a brief chat with us, and then we go on to our two friends. Well, Roland, thank you for joining and working with us on this program. What is your assessment of Glenn Maxwell's inning last night? We have to ask you that question. Roland, if you can hear us. Well, we seem to have some
All I can say about Glenn Maxwell's innings today really is quite unbelievable. I don't think he would be able to believe the innings he played. I don't think Australia could believe the innings, and certainly Afghanistan couldn't. It was an innings really that you would say innings of a lifetime. He did have a certain degree of luck, but as they say, you make your own luck, and he made his own luck. But apart from the luck he had, the striking of the ball, even in his state when he was injured and couldn't move particularly well, it just showed his ability to keep his head down on the ball, minimum fuss, and just struck the ball quite beautifully. In all, it was just an unbelievable innings. Well,
what is your opinion on Afghanistan's World Cup performance thus far? It looks like a good dream that is sadly coming to an end. Your views?
What I can say is that Afghanistan has certainly showed in this World Cup that they are not considered minnows. Their performances have been first class. They've looked very much at home in this World Cup, as if they belong there. And obviously they've been getting the results. They've got a lot of very good individual players. Their bowling attack is very good, particularly if the ball is spinning, if the wicket is spinning. I think they've got a lot to be proud of. Today's defeat, obviously, they will feel that one for a long time because they were right in the driver's seats. Australia was 7 down, not even 100 on the board. Still another 200 to win. You would expect to win that. 9 out of 10 times you would expect to win that game. But really, they got a lesson today from a side that never gives up. But apart from that, I think Afghanistan really have performed extremely well in this World Cup. They have nothing to be disappointed about in terms of their overall performance. Yes, be disappointed with today's result. But if you take the World Cup as a whole, I think they've held their own and really shown that their cricket is on the up. We've known it's been on the up for a while, but now at a world tournament, they're showing that it is very much on the up, and they can be a top 5 side in the world.
Well, Roland, one last question before we let you go. Do you think West Indies team can learn a thing or two from the newly contesting teams and the newly emerging teams in this World Cup? Your views, Roland?
Well, I wouldn't say West Indies can take anything from Afghanistan's success, because West Indies has been a success story in its history. I mean,
Yes.
we've won a number of World Cups, both in T20 and 50 over competitions.
Very true.
Afghanistan hasn't won anything like that. So
Yes.
it is not a case of us taking anything from Afghanistan.
Right.
It really is a case of us really assessing where we are in terms of the world game, in our performances, and improving on those. We have a history of winning, and that history cannot be taken away. West Indies have done that over a long period. So there's not a lot we can take from Afghanistan. We've just got to get our game in order to get back to the standards that we set for ourselves over those years.
Well, that was Roland Butcher talking to my colleague David Brooks earlier in the day, and today with NewsX exclusively on three of the most important points, including the demise of West Indies. But more importantly, I'd like to go on to, before I get David Brooks into the show, I'd like to go back to Paul Dennett, the Aussie podcaster, journalist, cricket watcher, the beaming Paul Dennett. Paul, how are we today? Did you have a good night's sleep last night?
At all. I barely slept at all, Sunil. The game finished about 4 a.m. here. I was too excited to sleep. I had to get up for work at about 7, so I'm in a twilight zone. But I have this feeling that you only get when you watch an innings like that. I had this strange sense of superiority, as though I am superior to people who didn't get to see that innings. I'm walking around with a great sense of satisfaction today, because I have watched cricket for 4 decades. That is the best innings I have ever seen. I have seen them all, and I think I put that just above the Ben Stokes heroics at Headingley in 2019. The shots that Maxwell was playing, some of them defied explanation, even for him. He couldn't move anything other than his hands at one point. And the shot for me that was emblematic of it all, there's one that he decided to play a reverse to.
Yes.
It hurried on to him. It should have clean bowled him. It would have clean bowled everyone else. He managed to whip it through third for 4, and just absolutely stunning. They're talking about it as the greatest white ball innings ever, and I think that's probably true.
Well, the greatest white ball innings. Well, we don't need to critically analyze the innings, just savor it. David Brooks, if you can hear us. David, if you can hear us. Did you enjoy as much as all the world, around the world, all the fans? Did you enjoy as much as that?
Well, I actually love Glenn Maxwell. I mean, he's my favourite Australian player. I love his enthusiasm for the game. I like the way he tries everything to get into that Australia team, all formats. I was happy for him. He's been in and out the side. He's never had a proper run. He's had his own issues with his own, mental health, I guess, and sort of being there in best form ever. I thought, good on him. It was a one-man show, extraordinary. I mean, there was a partnership. Let's not forget the skipper, Australian skipper, who kept him company for that 200-run partnership. I think the most runs ever scored after the 7th wicket has fallen. So there was a kind of, there was a lot of interest. And some of the shots, what Paul was saying there, I can imagine what it's like actually to walk around having seen that innings when most of Australia is asleep. What were they doing asleep? They could have seen the best ODI innings of all time, but they were sleeping instead. Why would you do that? So I would love to be where Paul is now. And I think you deserve it, Paul. You went through it, and now you deserve to be superior to other Aussies.
Well, absolutely. Superior than the other Aussies. But you were nervous, Paul, when we spoke to you mid-innings. Paul, I'd like to get you into this discussion. You were completely mesmerized, and you were a little nervous, and you said, this could be it. This could be the Achilles heel for the Aussies. Were you glad that you were wrong?
Absolutely. I think, if I'm honest, at the innings break, I thought Australia was going to lose. I knew that the ball was going to move around, and Australia is never very good against the moving ball. And when we were 90 odd for 7, it played out just as my worst nightmares had expected. And, you know, even Maxwell himself was given out LBW. He was so convinced that he was out. He reviewed it out of hope. And he was halfway off the ground, and the next batter was halfway down the steps when, to the surprise of all, the ball was shown as going over the top. So there was certainly some luck to it, and there was some madcap moments to it all. But certainly when we had Marcus Stoinis trying to play a reverse sweep to Rashid Khan getting out LBW, Josh Inglis getting out first ball, Marnus Labuschagne getting out run out, great dive, almost got in, but the bat twisted, and so although it was past the line, it wasn't grounded. It had all the hallmarks of this is not going to be our night. Even to the point, Mitchell Starc gets out caught behind, doesn't review it, and the replay shows that he didn't hit it, but it actually clipped the bail, clipped the stumps. It was bizarre. And then suddenly for Maxwell to play what initially seemed like an innings that it was just going to mean that Australia's net run rate wouldn't have the same destructive damage that was looking like. It looked like he might be able to get 100 and give us a modicum of respectability. But then when the cramping came, and it was at one point he was almost having conniptions on the ground, the cramps were so bad. It looked like he wasn't going to be able to continue. The crazy situation of Pat Cummins hitting balls that they could have run 2 for, but they couldn't even hobble a single because at one point Maxwell got, in such a horrible way. But then he would face the next over, hit a 6 or a 4, keep the run rate in check. It was cricket like I've never seen it before. And yeah, absolutely thrilling. And I do feel superior.
Absolutely. It was thrilling. I mean, this is we've seen the best of Maxwell in the IPL, not so much in the test, but do you think it's time for him to take a far more senior and far more a role where he's certain in all 3 formats and a little more respect that he usually deserves and he gets in the dressing room?
Well, I mean, I have been banging on about Maxwell playing test cricket for 10 years, and it's like every time that it looks like there's no chance, a chance comes. When he got a chance against India about 8 years ago, he got a century. He was even a chance of touring India not that long ago, and then he had that injury as well. So there's a great debate at the moment as to who's going to replace David Warner at the top of the innings when he retires at the end of the Pakistan series. And the names that are being bandied about are solid players, Marcus Harris and Cameron Bancroft and Matt Renshaw. They're all solid players, but I would say get him in there. He's got a first-class average of about 40. He never plays much first-class cricket. If I'm an opposition and Glenn Maxwell's in the side, I'm scared. He bowls handy off-spin. He's a fantastic fielder. And I'd say get him in there now. And when we tour India in the next time we tour India, I want him in there for that as well.
Well, David, we all take great delight in taking punches at Australian team. But what makes them so special is their ability to come back and make that counter punch, counter attack, and the winning mentality like the winners have. I mean, yesterday it was proved that there is a thing called hope, luck, and divine interference. Do you believe that Australian team has really peaked at the right time, or this was just divine interference?
Well, whether the intervention came from above or below, it won't affect us. Well, I mean, it's going to give a huge boost to Australia. And Pat Cummins at the end looked like a cat that got the cream. I mean, he was there as one of the partnerships. He said it was one of the greatest innings he'd ever seen, and he's had a better view than anyone. The writing was on the wall. It was going to be Maxwell's night. I mean, when I spoke to you during the day yesterday, I said Afghanistan will win this, but they've got to take their catches. And my God, Majid is probably one of the worst fielders in the international game. He dropped an absolute sitter. As you're right, Adam Zampa was up and down like a fiddler's elbow. He was down. he must have got up to go into bat about 3 or 4 times. At one stage, he was walking down the steps.
Right.
Maxwell had already walked off. But, Mitchell Starc, as you say, it was extraordinary. Mitchell Starc had virtually given up. From as far as he was concerned, he wanted the game over as quickly as possible. He couldn't wait to get off. But it takes 2 teams to make a game like that. Absolutely. And what a fantastic advertisement for the 50-over format, because you wouldn't have had that situation in the 20-over match. To dig yourself out of trouble like that and to counter-punch in that way, extraordinary. Great for the game. And let's not forget the other hero whose achievements have been put to one side, that of Ibrahim Zadran. Not only a superb century, the first ever by an Afghan player. But amazing wicket-keeping performance too. The catch he took off the rebound was astonishing reaction catch. And he was almost a one-man team on the Afghanistan side to actually try and get them over the line. Superb game. Cricket is the winner there, and Australia now, well, they could beat anyone. They must feel they could beat anyone after that, from any situation.
Well, very well put it. Paul, I'd like to draw you in here because this is your morning, your time to bask in the reflected glory of your team. Just tell me, there were like over 20 odd records they were set. Which one is your favorite of all the records? Of yesterday's game from Glenn?
Well, the one that I like that I don't think anyone's talking about, it's kind of not a record, but it's something quite special. That the very first ever Test match, Charles Bannerman scored 67% of the runs in Australia's first innings. He got 165 out of not much more than 200. And that has never been broken in the 145-year history of Test cricket since. Now, Glenn Maxwell, it doesn't get the record because it's not a completed innings per se. And I think Viv Richards did have one a little bit higher. But if you were allowed to put this one in the records for one-day cricket, it would actually be ahead of all but that one that Viv Richards did in terms of Maxwell scored 69% of the runs. And that's just extraordinary to have done that. And as I said, to put in, I know you can't compare one-day cricket with Test cricket, I know all that, but a record that has stood the test of time for 145 years, in a way, was beaten last night by Glenn Maxwell. That's my favourite, even though it's not an official record.
No, but that's very interesting. Which one, to your mind, comes closest to it? I mean, this is incomparable. Which one is the closest in the 40-year history that you've watched and you've seen yourself?
The ones that come close, Ben Stokes in 2019. I saw Alan Border belt Holding, Marshall and Garner in 1984-85 at the SCG. That was amazing. Steve Smith's innings in 2019. Virender Sehwag at the MCG in 2003 got 190 odd. That was pretty special. And I've seen Sachin Tendulkar score a double century. That was pretty special as well. There's lots of wonderful innings, but I just think this one's the best.
Absolutely, this one. David, I'd like to put the same question on to you. Do you think this is the greatest, and which one comes closest to it? I mean, what is your memory of some of the greatest batting display that you saw like yesterday?
I suppose, Ben Stokes, I agree with Paul, that stays in the memory because that game was dead and buried for England and it was a one-man rescue. Brian Lara played some very special innings in his time, one in Sydney, Australia, where he got a very big century and won the game on his own. I think it takes you back to these sort of one-man performances. And the fact that this is Glenn Maxwell, can't even rely on his place in the next game. How many games has he played where he knows for sure he's going to be playing the next one? Hardly any. So I'm delighted for him. He's really worked hard. I mean, he's played first-class cricket over in the UK for Lancashire, played 2 full seasons in the county championship. He wasn't just there to play T20. He has really worked on this. And I remember seeing that documentary on Amazon when he spoke about his excitement being recalled to the Test match squad and didn't get in the end. So I'm thrilled for him, and I hope, as Paul said, that he finds a regular berth in this Australia team. Chop and change someone else, get him in there. And, Australia has a strange record with people like Glenn Maxwell. They're not seen as proper Aussies or something. I don't know what it is. He's not seen as
David,
the hard...
David, we are not stirring any controversy here, but today your team is playing England, absolutely bottom of the pool against Netherlands, the newbies. Who's going to be your favourite? Who are you backing? And technically, who should be winning today's match?
Well, of course, England should be winning it. It's just they've been so poor in this tournament that you never know what is going to happen. Will they give an opportunity to a couple of the younger players? Surely Harry Brook, Gus Atkinson must come into the team. I've not seen any team news yet. Yes, the old cliche, they're playing for pride. Well, that's already gone, isn't it? They're now playing for their careers, some of these guys. If they want to represent England again, they're going to have to put their hands up again. And it's a banana skin waiting to happen, isn't it? Because Netherlands have got nothing to lose from this encounter.
Absolutely, Paul.
For Champions Trophy place.
Paul, final word from you. Do you think this is the worst possible English side after watching the greatest comeback in the history? And again, you have a chance to answer your English friend in your own style.
Well, no, England's got a wonderful opportunity tonight. This is for supremacy, for European supremacy. The battle to see who's the dominant cricket country in Europe between England and Netherlands. What a great opportunity for them.
That's an absolute cracker. I mean, this is straight out of the park. I'll let David just retort to it. And David, would you agree? This is the European supremacy where England is fighting a couple of highly placed teams on the 8th panel, and they're working for, who's the best team in the Europe. Your views, and we'll wrap the show.
Well, let's not forget France, Germany, Switzerland,
Iceland, my favorite team, Iceland.
Iceland. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't forget, these two teams are better than any of those. So England have done their bit. They're better than Iceland.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.